fucking do it live. Welcome to the LOGJAM, everybody. Season 6. Season is almost over. Week 14, one game left to play. It is jammy.
Yeah, it's very jammy. One game left to play, but like one huge game for everyone in the league. Pretty much everyone in the league. So.
Something at stake for everybody. Standings, couldn't be jammier. 3 teams at 8 and 5. Everyone else at 6 and 5, 7 and 6, right in there. So here we go, fellas. Yep. We'll try to break on through this mess and get to the playoffs.
Somebody's trying. We're all trying to break through to get to the playoffs, whether it's a first round bye or just to get in. That's a perfect theme. Is break on through, motherfuckers.
We have some exciting news to break to you, Darren.
Yes, the good news is the documentary from last year's championship and tumultuous offseason is ready.
Fine.
It is ready, all approved. Everybody signed off that was in it. We told you we got some cameos, so we finally got through that work, but it is ready. What you need to do is send an email to mikeoxenfire@gmail.com and just request a link, and we'll zip it over to you because obviously we don't have distribution or we can't afford to put it up on things, so it's something you just gotta ask for, okay? But it's worth it. Worth it.
Looking forward to that. Really, really good stuff there. Can't wait let's get into last week's game, starting with our game of the week. The Fury coming back on Monday night to defeat the Zorros 148-140.
Well, let's start with the person who didn't have the more points in this game, which was the Zorros, because the Cardinals with Hollywood Brown with 0 points and still putting up 140. That's still pretty good.
Which Trey McBride as a Cardinal got 23 of them.
That's where they went. That's what I was gonna say. You know what I mean? Like that's where they went. They went to Trey McBride, but he had him on his team, and so he got the points. And Jalen Hurts put up 26. Jalen Hurts is doing a tush push like every week. It seems like so. Great quarterback start.
I guess
for him.
You might have to question at this point in the season starting 2 pieces of the Cardinals offense.
With Kyler back?
I guess. Maybe we're back in it. The scene of the game, Zorros had gone ahead. They had a 56.2 point lead going into Monday night. The Fury, of course, with Chase and Mixon going Monday. You felt like the Zorros were a favorite here. Even at halftime, they putting up, I think, 17 each. But they exploded in the second half. They totaled 64, 5 points, 10 points enough. Big win.
Yeah, big win for the Fury, especially when Kelsey and Ross St. Brown were quiet. Is that okay? Yeah. Quiet. 12 points each, I think.
Pedestrian.
12 and 13 or roundabout for St. Brown. But yeah, pedestrian. Just, for them, Kelsey at 12 is like not the week you want, but he still scores 148 because the white Tiger Bengals, right?
And when Ohio can't produce, they turn to Washington. Jake Browning gets the offense going, gets him the win in that one. Jared Goff with 20 is nice. That Samaje Perine with 2.9 obviously hurts. There was some balance at the bottom end of that game. The Perine and Hollywood number. Both defenses score nice with the Jets and Miami both putting up 15, 16 points. Mm-hmm. And then the kickers at 5 and 3. So really evenly matched. Great matchup. Yeah. And Fury comes up with a huge win.
Definitely game of the week. Congratulations, Chris. That was game of the week.
Game number 2, Poway over the Pimps. Unfortunately for UD, Poway wins 135-123, keeping their playoff hopes alive.
Well, good for Billy. I love to see that, especially having scored so many points. He's no longer high points but in the league, but scoring so many points this year and just seemed like things weren't going for you. So good for him. This was, I actually thought for a minute, like when Trevor Lawrence was starting to really, like I'm here. Like,
another game that felt like it was maybe too far.
Yep.
But Trevor Lawrence within range of a bonus, within range, maybe another tee, another couple long passes, could have gotten you there.
Yeah, but there was enough time. Then boom, gets stepped on by a big fat offensive lineman.
Folds in half, and that is it. Another big game from Poway, Tyreek Hill, of course. But Michael Pittman Jr. stepping up with 31. Questions with Derrick Henry, possibly a concussion. Wondering about his health there, but
the Tua Tyreek Hill combo is, wow, does that hurt? That's deadly.
Tua Legalabiola, absolutely.
20 or 58 points out of that pair.
Almost rendering
double
Lamar
double.
Jackson moot at this point. It's a Tua team. Eckler not so much. Ramondre Stevenson, another running back of his that with a little bit of trouble. So I think the big thing on the pimp side, of course, Kamara had a fantastic game.
Finally.
Brown was there.
Yep.
Was that question at the flex?
Yeah, the question at the flex, and I even put it in the league thread, was like, Kirk, I think, or I can't
Just thinking
remember.
about Joe Ford at one point.
Ford was in my lineup at one point.
Terry McLaurin. Ended up going with Terry McLaurin.
Went with McLaurin, and that really kind of cost me there. I don't know if that's the 12 points that would have gotten me back into this.
If you started Jerome Ford, it would have been enough points. 14.2 points would have been enough to win it. So
if TJ Hawkinson wasn't on by, I didn't have to start 4-point Njoku or whatever.
Head balls.
Yeah, but it's okay. Good win for Billy. I'm glad to see him still going in. We'll hope maybe see him in the playoffs.
There it is. With high points this week, the Windy City Scoregasm total 150, taking care of Merci, dealing their playoff hopes a blow, 150 to 131.
Yeah, and again for Merci, CJ Stroud really just didn't have the game that he
has been,
which is crazy, right? Like we're talking about a rookie quarterback that scored 18 fantasy points, which should be pretty good, but I think we've got accustomed to CJ Stroud being special.
Yeah,
and
Laporta is special at tight end.
Sam.
Yeah.
Laporta.
Always
plays Sam Laporta.
Trade B, Sam Laporta.
Hashtag APSL.
Not to skip over Windy City, but Isaiah Pacheco, another great game for Merci as well, until he got kicked out, essentially ending his hopes in that game. Windy City feels like CeeDee Lamb might be listening to the pod.
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, but good for him. We've been challenging him. And he's answered the bell. So good.
36 points to lead Windy City. Really kind of pedestrian. I mean, although good numbers, he had 5 players between 19.6 and 23.2, but enough to amass in a low-scoring week.
Gary's defense had negative points, and he still put up high points of the week.
Yeah,
and took over high points of the week. So watch out for the score, guys.
Yeah, a couple players on the bench there. Devontae Smith with 24 would have been a nice addition. Charbonnet coming through in Seattle too. So.
Cabernet is delicious in Seattle too.
Cabernet. The big news on the Merci side, that Tank Dell 0.0 and goes to the IR for the year.
Yeah,
that's a big hole. That's another guy that was a plug and play guy for a couple of weeks.
Yeah, that hurts. Literally.
Ouch. The Sin 116 over the Avengers, only getting to 92 points on a terrible week for the Avengers.
Well, I mean, let's talk about it. Like Dallas. Gives up 41 points to Seattle. Who sees that coming down? So the defense is solid. So you take negative points from a defense. Chuba Hubbard, Chubba Wubba.
Yeah,
he put up 25 for you, but you literally had everybody on bye.
Everybody's. I did have a couple rosters.
The entire team, your entire starting roster was on bye.
There was a couple plays out there. None of them I think would have resulted in a win. I mean, Gary brought up the obvious that I could have started a defense. I didn't even consider that.
Yeah.
I considered Jake Browning. I considered Elijah Mitchell. I considered, there was a handful of plays out there of guys that could have been plugged into the lineup, but not to no avail. The Sin, Dak Prescott leading an impressive run of them getting back in contention with 34, DeAndre Hopkins with 19. 4 players in single digits isn't great, but it's enough to get a win and stay alive.
No, and Sin was a Cowboy fan this weekend with Dax and Tony Pollard really putting in work for the Sin to get this win. So I know Corey was going to buy the Cowboy hat or something, he said.
Last game this week, who's your daddy in the Pharaoh Bowl? Knocking his son's pants off 130 to 111.
Yeah, he took the belt to him. It seems like it's been happening. I don't know. We have to have Mike Oxenfire look this up for us to see, but it seems like Daddy is starting to, strong arm, old man strength, the young boy.
Definitely 2-0 this week.
Matchups.
Yeah, along with Merci picking up a sweep in the season series. But I think overall, it does feel like every time we read a Daddy Young score, Daddy ends up on top of that one.
Well, I think, we talked about Tank Dell getting hurt earlier, right?
Yeah.
I think that really helped Daddy with Nico Collins. Puts up 37. Puka Chua.
Fantastic trade deadline edition gets him 27.
Yep.
Puka Nakua, I believe.
That guy gets 27. Good job.
Young Fuse Debo with 41, Jordan Love with 30. That should be enough to get it done in a lot of weeks. That is just 68% of your points wrapped up in 2 players.
It's great that 2 players score 71. Like if you have two players scored 71 points combined on your team in a fantasy league, you're like, that's the boost you need to really get that win, right? The problem is the rest of the rest of his roster puts up 40 points. So just not enough for Young and Confused. But, you know, he should tell Jordan Love and Debo good game.
Yeah. Congratulations on everybody that won. What that got us to is this craziness, this jamminess. We went to Vegas, so we got some very specific, very true, very unquestionable stats that we're going to read off for you here. But we had some playoff percentages. And so for those teams that haven't made it in yet, Windy City Scoregasms, we have at 99% chance to get in. Probably in a rounding area, you would get to 100%. In essence, they would need to lose. They would need everyone else to not win. Excuse me, everyone else could even win, and they would need to outscore them by 192 points in one case. Yeah. So we're saying, for all intents and purposes, the Scoregasms are in.
Yeah, 99.69.
Zorros are next at 68%, followed by the Fury at 64%. Essentially, both of those teams are win and get in situations. If they win, teams need to catch them in a big way. They need to come in with a 62-point deficit and a 112-point deficit. There are scenarios where they lose and get in as well, and there's scenarios where they lose and don't make it, but they've got a largely good chance to make it in these situations. Here's where the rubber hits the road. 3 teams right here, all kind of lumped together. The Merci we have at 18%, the Sin at 14%, and we put the Poway Titans at 23% chance to get in.
Yeah, Billy's point total is really going to help him out here if he can get a win this week and have a couple things. But that point total is really going to help Billy out.
The downside for both Merci and Sin, if they lose, obviously they're out of the playoffs. They don't have a chance to get in because they will have been passed by too many teams to get there. So there aren't scenarios likely because of the point spreads, and they are out. If they win, they both have chances. If 2 of the 3 teams around them lose, specifically Zorros and Fury, and then potentially the Sin Poway winner probably gets ahead of them if they lose. If they win, they can stay ahead of that player. So they're there. Poway is the interesting one. We're getting a little bit lost in the sauce here, but at 23%, if they lose, they're out. There is no question. If they win, they host a 222, 82, 160, and 99-point advantage on the teams above them. So if enough teams end up at 6 and 8, which there can be a lot, there can be 5 teams at 6 and 8. Yep. They have tiebreakers on all of them. So they need help. They need 2 of the 3, Zorros, Fury, and Merci, to lose, and they're in. And that brings us to Young. We have them at a 1% chance to get into the playoffs. The Young would need to beat Merci. They would need Daddy to beat Zorro, Sin to beat Poway, and the Pimps to beat the Fury and outscore them by 116, 176, and 192 respectively.
So you're saying there's a
chance. We haven't eliminated Young yet, but they are in the ballpark. Any overriding thoughts on that, Darren?
I think those numbers they ran through the thing, and that's probably about right. I mean, I know we didn't come up with it.
It's wild goose chase. So how do we get there? Next week's games. The game of the week, Sin traveling to the Poway Titans. That is probably the most crucial game in the schedule. The winner has a legitimate shot to get in the playoffs if a couple things go their way. Sin are 6 and 7, Poway is 5 and 8, and the Sin are a 1-point favorite.
Wow, Sin are a 1-point favorite, but it's in Billy's yard, right?
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure. I'm going to take Poway.
The Poway Titans to win here. I've been rooting for the Poway Titans for quite some time. As you know, to get back in it as an agent of chaos. Now seeing them with a chance to get in with that roster.
You don't want them to.
God, I think I need the Sin to win this one. Picking from the heart here, we're going to take the Sin.
Go Sin.
Merci, 6 and 7. At Young and Confused, 5 and 8. Another game, either loser, probably out of the playoffs. Likely that Young could win and be out also, but Merci with a win has a shot to get in here. They're an 18-point favorite at Young.
Yeah, I'm going to take Merci. There's a reason he's been playing really well, and his roster is pretty. I'll take Mercy here.
Yep, I'm going to stick with Mercy there. Young would obviously I always root for a spoiler. This game doesn't affect me a ton either way, but we'll think Mercy's going to win that one.
Yeah.
Who's your daddy? Already in the playoffs at 8-5, a 4-point favorite over the Zorros
For the first time since the pandemic.
for the first time since the pandemic. I don't know what that even means, but the daddy is a 4-point favorite. Not a must-win game for the Zorros, but a lot at stake for them.
Yeah, I mean, again, we talked about the teams in the middle there, middle of the top, controlling their own fate. Daddy he's in. So this is a Zorro's game. To me, this is like the Zorro. I don't know. You know those games when you've clinched your conference or whatever. You're like, maybe we can rest some guys. You know, like I'm not saying Daddy's going into it that way. He's going to go into it because he has stuff to play for.
Yeah,
Don't get me wrong.
We'll get to that in just a second.
I'm just saying. I think the Zorros are like an animal backed into a corner.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna take Daddy.
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm.
I think the Zorros might take this one. I just have a sneaking suspicion. Fury 6-7 traveling to the Pimps. Very similar setup. The Pimps trying to get a bye, trying to win, but the Fury with their playoff lives at stake.
Yeah. I mean, I lost earlier this year when I played Benner, and it was in Ohio.
Sure.
So this is in Michigan.
It is.
We've already seen that this is the year of the Wolverine, and I'm gonna take the Pimps.
I hear again. I'm gonna go with the team that is fighting for their playoff lives.
Yeah,
I think
I
the Fury might take this one. The last game of the week, the Scoregasms on a roll. I think went 4 or 5 straight, 7-6, a 19-point favorite at the Avengers, 8-5.
Yeah, this is a fun game because if you beat Gary, you can. Gary's going to make the playoffs, so you'd have to see him again. So it's almost one of those things where it's tough to beat. Who won the matchup earlier this year? Do you remember?
I think we did. No, Scoregasms, Avengers 120, Scoregasms 110.
Okay, so that's uncharacteristic for both your teams to have that low point total, but whatever. So you're up 1-0. Wow, I am going to take. I'm going to take the Scoregasms.
I am obviously the Scoregasms. Look at that roster. They're scoring 160 points a week. I'm scoring 90 points a week.
Yep.
That's an easy win for the
I
Scoregasms.
scored 90 points a week when your entire roster is on bye.
Well, I'm just saying that's an easy,
that's true.
That's an easy win for the Scoregasms. There, that one won't even be close. That gets the next week's games out of the way. We did want to mention a little bit. We ignored the teams and their situations at the top. It's pretty obvious those teams are in, but each team of the 4 teams has a chance at getting a bye. Both first and second get byes. Obviously, if the Avengers win, they would need to be outscored by both the Pimps and Daddy. Otherwise, they would have a bye. Pimps in a similar situation. That the Pimps win and Daddy loses or doesn't outscore them by 67 points.
Yeah, 67.
40. He would also get a bye. Daddy can get a bye with a loss by one of those 2 teams, or 2 of the teams, because if the Windy City wins, if Daddy wins, he gets a bye if he passes one of the teams ahead of him or one of them loses, and the Scoregasms by winning would have a tiebreaker if 2 of the other 3 teams lose.
And so there's still a lot to play for, is what you're saying from the teams who are already in.
Yep.
And Gary at 99.9%, I'm saying is in. So,
playoff
but he's
team.
playing you. So that's where it's like those four top teams.
I'm no object.
I'm just saying
much.
that looks like an interesting game this week. I would say just a game to watch.
All right. Well, we will see. Well, thanks for tuning in, everybody. I hope we got a little bit less of the sauce there on numbers. We didn't get all the information out, but we had a good time. Hope you guys had a good time too.
Yep. And good luck this week to everyone.
See you on the other side.
Yeah, we'll see you on the other side.
Good job, buddy. You did a fantastic job. You sure did. Thank you.